Right, everybody, we're going to get kicked off again here for the second part of our event today. As you already know, there's no way for this event to happen without a handful of sponsors to make this event a reality. So I want to just list off our sponsors here. A couple of them have special deals that you can take advantage of. The first one is a company called A-Press. They're offering 40% off of ebooks, which means you can get Founders at Work for about $7. Jonathan Robinson told me that's a book I need to read. Haven't heard of it before. I've heard of it, but haven't picked it up before, and definitely will be. Birmingham Angel Network. They're a group of local angel investors. They're always on the lookout for great companies like the ones I'm sure that you guys will be starting very soon. Chronicle, a digital design and development studio that has teams that build online products and systems for startups. Finer Grinds, the coffee that you guys have been having all day. We really thank Woody for providing that coffee. He's a startup himself. Not sure how old the company is, but relatively new within the last few years. Fleetio, you heard from Tony Somerville this morning. They are a fleet management software for small and medium-sized businesses. You've heard about Innovation Depot as well. It's where my office is. I love it there. You should definitely consider it. It's a great incubator in this city, and we're lucky to have such a great venue. Isotope 11, they're a software development firm specialized in web-based software applications. And they also just began the accepting applications for the second annual Incubate Bank. I don't have the web address, but I think that's coming up. Nominations or the class starts in July. I'm probably ruining the details here for them, but definitely check that out. Julie Haggard Designs. She designed the name badges, the banners, and all the signage that you see here today. And then Jim and Nix, who contributed the food that we just ate. So I want to thank our sponsors. They're a huge part of this day. We couldn't do that without them. And if you would, just give them a round of applause. We talked about great startups being great teams, and that can be, it's easy to say, of course, yeah, it's a great team. We'll just put a team together. That's really difficult to execute at times, especially depending on the type of business that you're trying to do. So we've got a couple guys. We're going to break up the format, do something a little bit different here. We're going to have Jason McCay and Ben Wyrosdick from MongoHQ share with us about team building, picking founders, and how to find talent in the Birmingham market and maybe other markets as well. But Jason is the co-founder of Mongo with Ben. They're a high-growth cloud database company and a Y Combinator alumnus. He focuses time on the user side of the product by handling day-to-day operations and support. So when you interact with MongoHQ, chances are that you're interacting with him. Ben is also a co-founder at MongoHQ. He is responsible for the vision and implementation of the technology that makes the MongoHQ product special. So I want to welcome both Ben, and I'm wrecking his name here, Ben and Jason, I'm so sorry, up to the stage.
So when we signed up to, or when we agreed to talk about this, or to present at Birmingham Startup Summit, we really didn't know at the time what we were going to talk about, but when Jonathan and Tony told us that we were going to be talking about founders and teams, I was kind of excited about it because this is something that I think is really important to know that through a lot of my experiences over the last couple of years, it's just been reiterated over and over again how really important this topic of building a startup is. And I think it's something that in a lot of ways is overlooked, and I think that people kind of when they're getting started, they just have an idea. They really don't have any vision of whether or not they're going to be successful or not, and they tend to just kind of go with whoever says, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go do this," and they end up running with them, not really putting in some thought about what it's actually going to mean if this thing actually gets traction. Do I want to be spending this much time with my founders? And so it's an exciting topic, and I think it's really, I hope to bring some interesting information for you guys to consider. Also, we're going to talk about teams a little bit. So, admittedly, after I put all the presentation together, I got all my notes and thoughts together about what I'm going to show. It felt a little cautionary, and that kind of caused me some concerns. I don't want to freak anyone out a little bit, but I do admit that we're kind of in the middle of it right now. We're growing a business. We're in the middle of kind of the day-to-day grind of trying to make something successful, and so probably a lot of my stuff is going to be a lot more real-made and not so much flowery, because we haven't gotten to that point yet. We're still, we're still grinding it out and kind of feeling a lot of the pain. Ben and I worked together for about 12 years. 12 years now? We've worked together for a long time and actually worked as people trying to do entrepreneurship. We've worked together for about 5 years now, 6 years. And in our experience, and also in YC, which I'll talk about in a second, that was actually really vital, and I'll tell you why. So needless to say, we really do have a lot of interesting stories. So what we built was MongoHQ. So what that is, in essence, is cloud database service. And really, we were looking a few years ago at just the landscape and thinking that as developers, we were having a really hard time provisioning data for our applications. We found it really easy to actually build an application, but the data was something that was kind of an afterthought. Yet it was really one of the more important factors of an application. One person said that basically, if you look at your code from the one moment that you deploy it starts getting worse and worse and worse, or less valuable and less valuable, and you're always looking to replace it. But your data, from the day you deploy something, is actually getting more and more valuable. And so we really took that as like an effort to go after that market and really try to do something there. And at the time, there wasn't really much going on in the cloud space. It was really just starting to get going. A lot of new database technologies were out there. We're trying to decide which were going to be the winners, and we decided to go with a product called MongoDB. And that's what we currently do right now, is provide that. Provide that as basically a data layer for applications. And so we're looking to expand out in some other areas, but this is what we do right now. So it's kind of where we are. Just real quickly, we have about 50,000 databases now deployed on our platform. We've been around since 2010 with the product. And so we're really excited about it, but we really have some big ideas about where we're going to go next. So as was mentioned during our introduction, we are Y Combinator alums. We got accepted into Y Combinator for the summer 2011 class. It has been said that getting in Y Combinator is actually statistically harder than getting into Harvard Law. There's thousands of companies that apply, and while they have expanded out a little bit, thousands of companies apply, and they accept 60 companies, and that's it. And from that point, you kind of go to their incubator program in Mountain View and go through the system. So it's a really rewarding and stressful experience. I highly recommend any of you that are looking or considering incubator to make a run at YC or other incubators as well. I think YC is the best, just because I'm biased. What we're going to talk about today is based a lot on this guy right here. I assume that most of you know him. Does anyone have no clue who this guy is? That guy right there has no clue who this guy is. Awesome. Thank you very much. This guy is Paul Graham, and he is the founder of Y Combinator. He's also one of the leading minds on startups and some of the issues that startups has. He has a very, very good website where he posts essays from time to time about startups and his experiences. And he basically was our mentor. He's also one of our investors. And more than just YC, one of our personal investors. And it's been great to have him as a friend. And he's extremely intelligent. He has a PhD in computer science from Harvard, and so he's pretty bright. A lot of what we're going to be talking about today are not my thoughts. They're actually me just sharing with you what has really changed me and changed in our experiences with interacting with Paul Graham. So let's start talking about founders first. In the subheader I have of this is basically, you better get this right. And I really do think this is important. And I actually wanted to start this off with a couple of quotes. And these were basically from PG interviewing some other startups and asking them about founders. And one of the things that he said is that, one of the founders that he was talking to said is, you haven't seen someone's true colors unless you've worked with them on a startup. And then someone else put it in a more a different way, which was basically, it's like we're married, but so that thought is really important that you do get this right. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what it is about founders that make it so important. And just a couple of points is that one of the first things I want to say is, like, don't be a single founder. Basically, it's really, really tough to do a startup by itself, and if you don't have anyone to help you with brainstorming, if you don't have anyone to help you avoid really stupid decisions, and if you don't have anyone to honestly cheer you up in the really, really low moments of doing a startup, if you're all by yourself in this, it's really going to be hard to continue on, and you're going to lose momentum. And momentum is such a key factor in actually being successful. There's a quote that he has, and actually this is pulled from a forward he did for the Founders at Work, which was actually just mentioned from the A-Press sponsorship, where he's writing an essay, and he says that apparently sprinters reach their highest speed right out of the blocks and spend the rest of the time slowing down. The winners slow down the least. Sorry about that. The winners slow down the least. It's that way with most startups too. And it's such a key thing for why you need to have another co-founder, because I hear a lot of stories about people who start companies and they try to do it on their own, and then like after a few months they burn out, or they quit, or they stop having momentum, they stop doing whatever they were doing, and their startup just dies. And that's such a key factor in actually making it through the low points, because there are going to be low points. There are going to be points that absolutely suck, you hate it, you're done with it, you really just want to go work for Alabama Power, and nothing wrong with Alabama Power. But you want to just go work and just do a job and go home at the end of the day and not have to think about work. And that's not at all what a startup is like. A startup is absolutely immersive. You think about it all the time. I get really upset with myself when I'm laying in bed at night. I cannot sleep because I'm thinking about something going on with the startup, something I need to do, something that needs to be done. It's just constant. And I think that it's really important that you have someone to share that with. Another thing that's really important with founders is that it's all about the relationship. Kind of what we talked about earlier with really picking the right one. This is absolutely crucial. It's really important that you have history. In fact, it kind of goes back to that whole marriage quote that I showed, that little crass marriage quote that I showed a second ago. In our YC interview, we actually talked significantly about the fact that we're a married couple. Like Ben and I are a married couple. Like we argue all the time. In fact, driving over here today, we were having a pretty heated debate about something. And this is what happens, and this is how we actually share ideas and bounce ideas off of each other and express frustrations and improvements in the company and everything. And so you really have to have someone that can actually stick it out with you, that doesn't get pissed off with you and leave. And I think that in a lot of ways, having a really solid relationship like that is absolutely vital. We're not going to talk about issues like founder control, who's going to have percentage of the company, how you're going to break all that down. If you don't have all that worked out, it's really going to be really difficult. Basically, another quote from PG is, startups do the relationship between the founders when a dog goes to a sock. They can be pulled apart and building. So it's all cheery and fun when you're just starting out because the sky's the limit. When you actually have to get traction and get revenue and solve a lot of these really, really tough problems and have really fun things to do, you really need to know that someone's going to be by your side that's actually going to do it with you and you can depend on them. So
I think it's important to note as well, Jason said that they called us work wives, and they called us that since we were doing consulting. Like I said, we've known each other for years and years. And it's really important I think it's just like a marriage in that it's good to have someone who's not just like you, because you'll drive each other completely crazy. Jason cares about all the things that I don't care about, and vice versa. And so it's really good to complement each other, because if you get people who are too like-minded together, I think you'll strangle each other, and you don't, it's not as good as finding someone who really complements you. I think finding someone, it was good for us because we've known each other, I said 12 years, that's how long we know each other, pretty much 11 years. It's not how long we really worked together. But I think it's good if you have history with someone, because it is the most important part of your startup, is who you're starting with. And I told him I wouldn't share the quote, but I'll share part of it, because it's going to admit that I watch chick flicks a lot. But if you're familiar with the Runaway Bride scene at the very end, where he gives her kind of a mock proposal in the middle of the movie, she gives it back to him. But I thought it was a really good proposal, because what he said was, I guarantee there's going to be hardship, and at one point, either one of us is going to want to leave. And that's how it is. Like, there's a lot of times where you feel like you're going to have that, it's PG calls it the troughs of despair that you go through. It's like a roller coaster on the startup. It's really fun in the beginning, then you get traction, you get customers, and you get buried in this day-to-day thing. And there's these big troughs, and I think that at one point, you are going to want to get out of it at some point. It's good to have someone there who you have a relationship with, who can balance you and kind of bring you back on track and kind of share that load with you.
Good. Another point I want to make is that founders are actually greater than the idea. It's actually a long-standing fact that YC, for example, Y Combinator, will accept founders into their program, and then they will reject their idea. So basically they will say, we like you two guys, we think your idea is completely lousy, you're in, but your idea is out. And we'll go give you a new idea to go build a business. So you just take all that you've done, throw it away, and you actually go build something else. And we see that happen a lot. And I think it goes to the point that basically your ideas are going to change. What you start out doing is probably not going to be what you're going to finish doing. Even when we did MongoHQ, this is actually the third idea that we've had. And it just goes to point out that really founders are, having a good relationship and a person, that really is going to compliment you and is going to you want to really spend on, because it's going to be a lot of time. It is really important that you get that right first, even more so than the idea. Here's a quote that basically says, this is from PG, says, "I now have enough experience with startups to be able to say what the most important quality is in a startup founder. It is not what you might think." So anybody have a guess on what the most important quality in a startup founder is? Tenacity. Drive. Follow through. Focus. Optimism. Vision. You're all good.
Ability to not need much sleep.
That helps. That's actually pretty accurate. So, the most important quality in a startup founder is determination. Not intelligence, but determination. It is the same thing as tenacity. Points for I think it's really important. We're going to come back to that in a second. But basically, it's you can lose quite a lot in the brains department, and it won't kill you. But lose even a little bit in the commitment department, and that will kill you very rapidly. That's another quote from PG. And basically, the point is that you absolutely have to have determination. Everything's going to be going wrong. All this is going to go to crap, and you have to find a way to actually pull it out and keep plugging away, and not just go crawl up in a ball and cry, which is something I wanted to do. I wanted to do it yesterday. That was part of what Ben and I were talking about. Isn't that sad? I want to talk a little bit about teams now. I'm really more passionate about founders, honestly, but I'll talk a little bit about teams because you can't not just be you and your founder anymore. You have to actually hire people if you start getting some traction. The first team, just to reiterate again, the first team is the founders. That's going to be your first real interplay with another person, and it really is important that you make the right decisions. And go ahead and figure it out now. Like if you have a startup now and you have some guys around you or whoever, people around you that you're thinking about doing a startup with, and you and some other person have a really, really strong relationship, and you're looking at this other person who's hanging out with you guys and thinking he or she's not really on the level of commitment, you're really not sure about them, go ahead and cut your losses now. It'll save you a lot of heartache in the future, trust me. I would highly recommend doing that. The founder relationship really is super important. I'll show them that now. One more quote about that. Basically, he said it's far more intense relationship, talk about the founder relationship, than you usually see between coworkers, partly because the stresses are so much greater. So this is like the cliche-ish slide I have, which is talk about building teams, which is hire the right people. Because admittedly, I know this is very, very, very hard, and it's something that I absolutely struggle with, and I have to admit that I probably suck at really bad. Getting the right people into your company is going to be really vital when you actually are getting traction and you're growing. Because things are going to start moving so much faster. This isn't going to be a side project anymore. This is going to start taking up a lot of your time. And you really need to have people that are basically going to be able to go with you and to really understand you and almost going to be able to read your mind when you're actually pushing ahead. Because you can't. It's going to be really important and really difficult for you to turn your attention to every single thing. Another thing I would say is once you do get the right people, actually pay them what they're worth. They'll try to like lowball them or think that their value is worth, because all you're really doing is you're taking out of their paycheck for the sake of your business or profit or whatever, really what their value is, and you're kind of demeaning them. So when you find the right people, pay them what they deserve, and really motivate them to actually go into battle with you. I know this is hard, obviously, when you're bootstrapping. We bootstrapped for a long time before we got into YC. And so, we understand a lot of that, but at the same time, once you get to that point, really do find the right people. And also, I would say that basically you have to ask yourself, are you in it to win it? Like, are you actually going to take the risk to get the right people to actually go and win this game? Or are you just, kind of pretending or playing around? At some point, you have to look in there and ask yourself, are you really serious about this? And if you are really serious about this, then actually go get the right people and make it happen. If it fails in 6 months, then it failed, but at least you know. And if you just kind of like mess around and don't really make any decisions about it, then you're just going to be like wasting your time, wasting everybody else's time as well. So I really advise that. So
I think one of the harder qualities about finding the right, I wish there was something to answer. I wish I could say, here's the right person. Here's a checklist to go find them. It's really hard. We've, made wrong decisions in hiring people, had to let somebody go, and that was a really hard thing to do. The hard thing is when you find somebody, I think the question, I think Drew Houston said it well, the Dropbox, when he's looking to hire someone, he says, are they smarter than me? Because that's who I want to hire. Is someone, he said, managing people doesn't scale. And especially in the early days like this in the startup, you don't have time to manage people and make sure everyone's doing the right thing. So it's not just enough to have people who are competent, but do they, and I think when you're talking about this, I think the biggest deciding thing for me is not how, are they a good hacker, are they this or that, do they make good decisions? Because you're not going to be in there, every decision is crucial. You're making decisions every day, and every one you do kind of takes you on a path. And those decisions will determine how successful you end up being. So you want to find people who make good decisions, because you can't manage them. So finding people, and this is obviously this is the hardest part. It is cliche. That's what everyone's doing now. Everyone's hiring. How do you find good people? I don't know the answer to that, but I do know there's a quality about someone, especially in these early days, and it really tends to come down to do they, without being told what to do they generally make the right decisions? And that's the person you want to look for.
Yeah. Basically, if an ordinary employee were asked to do the things that startup founder has to, he'd be very indignant. That's another quote from PGA. Basically, it's the point that really you do need to find the right people. People that are going to go to battle with you, because most people that are looking for a job are not the type of people you need. You need to avoid them like the plague. Another thing I will say is that things start to move really, really fast. And kind of going back to the whole point that Ben was saying, you're going to start being pulled in multiple directions. You've got to have people that actually can almost read your mind and understand and operate well with ambiguity. I think it's really crucial. Basically, you're running a race, and you've got to have people that are going to be running it with you. And that sounds cliche, but it's true. Another thing about building out a team is that the middle kills. I've kind of said this in a couple of different ways, but I'll say it again. I think this is really important, and it's actually a piece of advice that was given to me last summer, and it's something that kind of stuck with me for a long time. Basically, it's this. If someone is really awesome and you bring them on your team, you're going to know that immediately, and you're going to have any issues. If someone is really bad, you're going to know that too, not have any issues, and you're going to get rid of them. The problem is all the people that stick in the middle that cause you all this heartache at night and cause you to lose sleep, and they slow things down, and you really just struggle with making a decision to get rid of them. And what all to do with them. Maybe I'll repurpose them. Maybe they're not really passionate about X. I'll put them on Y instead. Those types of things, yeah, get rid of them. Like, go ahead and fire them. And I know that sounds harsh, and I apologize, but in reality, like, they will kill you. They will absolutely kill you. They will waste your money. They will waste your time, and in the end, you'll be left as a pile of junk that you can't do anything with. You'll have to throw it away. We've learned this, and just for the whole issue that Ben described earlier, we had to let someone go, and we probably kept him on 6 weeks too long. Because we were just like debating back and forth. Go ahead and make the decision, because at the end of that, all we wasted was 6 weeks. So we wasted 6 weeks to make the exact same decision that we knew we should have made 6 weeks before. It caused all sorts of stress and heartache and pain, and we're just like, this stinks. But if we just made the decision then, we at least would have gotten 6 weeks of our lives back. So make the decision to get rid of the middle, because it kills you. That's my quote. So talk briefly about talent. I'm running out of time. We got about 5 minutes, but so basically, talent when multiplicity fails. So all you've seen in the movie Multiplicity, where Michael Keaton decides that the only way he can actually solve all his problems is to make a duplicate of himself, and it's only when he makes a duplicate of himself, he then goes and makes a duplicate of himself, that actually things start getting really, really bad. You have to actually go out and find talent. So how do you do that? For me, I always have a short list, and this is something that I used when we came back from Mountain View and came back to Birmingham, and it's something that I continue to use even now. But it's like a football coach. It's like I graduated from Auburn, so I'm a Tiger, and I hear Chiswick talking about how he has a short list for coaches. So when his 2 coaches left, or he got rid of one of his coaches, he asked one to leave, and the other one left to go back to Arkansas. He said, his quote to the media was like, I always have my short list of people that I'm looking at. And in other words, he's always looking for talent, and he has a list that he keeps around. So when this person leaves, I know how I'll replace them more. When I need this thing, I'm gonna know who I'm gonna go after. And those types of things, like for talent, like it's just a constant thing. Even if you're not hiring, you need to always have a short list around. It's something that I do. I'm always looking in the industry, seeing who's presenting things, that type of stuff. And that kind of goes into my second point, which is go after the leaders. Like, don't think that you can just have to hire all your buddies to start a company. Actually go after people that are going to make a difference. Don't be afraid to go and try to make a call to hire somebody that you think is like, you can't even You wouldn't even deserve talking to them, much less trying to get them to join your company because they're in some other awesome job. Actually take the risk and do it. You're trying to do something. You're trying to change the world. You got to, for you to change the world, it's going to take you taking risks like this and actually being successful to really make that happen. So don't be afraid to do stuff like that. And finally, my hypocritical slide of the day, which is called Find Hackers, Not MBAs. So this is actually, before I get into this point, I will say that I'm a total hypocrite, and I'm actually this really fake person, so I'm sorry. One of our employees, who's actually in the audience today, is actually an MBA, and he works for us. So I'm actually going against my credo to find hackers, not MBAs. But the reason I like him, the reason that Chris is awesome is actually because he is a cowboy. He is very creative, and he does have an MBA, but I don't hold that against him. He's very creative. He finds really awesome ways to solve problems, and there are lots of explosions along the way. But at the same time, he actually does kind of think about things in a different way and really cause us to actually pause and reflect on what he's doing. And so his skills are immeasurable, and he's really multi-talented. So there, Chris, wherever you are. I'm embarrassed you do that. Sorry. And I say that basically because I made this kind of here in the notes. It's basically, you want to go after people that are going to make a difference, not the people that just plan for others to do it. And I think that's really crucial. Really, at the stage of when you're trying to do a startup and you're actually just trying to survive, it is absolutely crucial that you find people that are out there willing to make a difference. And they're like, I don't care what, whatever's going on, I'm actually going to make this happen against all odds. And we're going to have fun doing this. And it's really important that you don't go and hire people that can't operate like that. They spend most of their time, talking about things, or let's have 6 weeks of planning before we actually go do something. Like, we need to do it now. And if it fails, then we move on. But at least we did take 6 weeks and then have it fail. 6 weeks is actually not a factor time period for most examples. So you really do need hackers, or in Chris's case, you need cowboys. You really do need people that are willing to actually take risks and not be afraid to fail for the sake of actually solving a legitimate problem with your business that actually opens the door to something you never even considered before. It's absolutely crucial in actually building out the initial phase of your company at the stage when you're in the first couple of years. So in wrapping up, like I said, I thought there was a little bit of a cautionary tale, and I might be a little too negative in some of the slides that I shared, so I figured I would close out with a little bit of some words of encouragement. Most of your startups are going to be in this state. They're in a constant state of failure. And basically, PG describes it as basically being the persistent state of failure. You have lots of stuff going on all the time, trying to grow a business, trying to do marketing, trying to do sales, trying to worry about how to build the next product, trying to worry about who's saying what on Twitter, answering support tickets, trying to grow your business, trying to buy T-shirts and stickers and do promotions and sign up for this conference and do this and do that. Worry about some guys asking us a question about benefits and try to deal with distance issues and everything else and how to grow the business, what's going to happen next, what's the vision for 2 years down the road, talk to your investors. All these kind of things are happening, and basically they're happening, as PG says, against the backdrop of constant disaster. And I think that the reason that I bring this up, and I swear this is encouragement, the reason I bring this up is because you really need to, as a startup founder, you really need to come to terms with it so that you don't get discouraged. If you come to terms with the fact that you're always in a state of failure, then you learn to embrace it, and you learn to know that even though this day is going really, really sucky, I know that if I have determination, so kind of go back to my quote that I mentioned before, which is basically that determination is the most important quality of a founder, not intelligence or whatever else. It's the ability to push through in the state of this. That's really what's going to set you apart and really tell whether or not you're going to be successful. Nothing else. It's really, it's all good. It's going to suck. Like the first 2 years, they're going to be suckiness. There's hardly a story out there that doesn't involve a total period of it was really, really bad. So if you can embrace that fact and not let you get this and not be discouraged about it, then you'll know that you can step forward and just keep plodding along and know that you're going to get the light at the end of the tunnel. So again, focus on this, determination, not intelligence, and you'll do just great. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.